Girl, in this economy, there is no room for pride. We've all chased a dream project that didn't land. That's normal in its life. But what happens when your ego can't let you admit it flopped? In this video, we're going to break down Meghan Markle's rumored pivot back to acting and how that mix of grandiosity, shame, and money motives play out in real life narcissistic dynamics. But before we get into it, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. Welcome back, everyone. I wasn't going to talk about this article that was released yesterday, I believe, but it hit a chord with me because of where I am in my life, and I'll explain that in a minute. So this was published in Radar, and it says, Meghan Markle doomed to shockingly humiliating career move after Netflix shows and lifestyle brand flops. The reason this resonated with me is that I was recently laid off, and the job market is ridiculous. I was watching a YouTube video the other day of a career coach who not manipulated, but changed little bits around in his resume and applied for positions to see what the percentage of callbacks were. And out of 100 applications, hearing back from 10 was considered amazing. So it's incredibly difficult to apply for jobs because every application, it's like you have to tailor it. It's just such a process. And then to only get 10% hits for an interview, and then in the end, only one person is chosen for a position, it's just rough out there. So when I was going through this article, there is a big part of me that has empathy for the job searchers out there, for the economy that's out there, for needing financial stability. And in this economy, this is how I open the video, there's no room for pride. Sometimes you need to go back to a previous life just to make ends meet, right? And unfortunately, that is the situation that we're living in nowadays. I wanted to say all of this so all of you know where I'm coming from and what my approach was to this article. It says, Meghan Markle is said to be weighing up a return to Hollywood acting roles after her latest television venture failed to find an audience and her lifestyle brand encountered setbacks. Honestly, this isn't unusual at all, right? We've all jumped into something new, a side hustle, a big project, a career change. We've put our heart into it, and sometimes it just doesn't take off the way we hoped. This is not a character flaw, it's just life. And actually, I'm going to take it a step further than that. We do this, or when this is done, this is, I consider, something brave. It's in these uncomfortable moments that real growth happens. And the reason it's brave is because sometimes a project's real purpose is to show us what isn't our lane. And that kind of clarity can be just as valuable as a win. Added to that, another important part of this is being able to step back, regroup, and pivot without feeling ashamed. It takes a lot of humility. It takes humility and a lot of maturity in order to do that. But for a true narcissist, admitting something didn't work is almost unbearable. They can't risk the image of always being successful. So instead of owning the flop, they'll blame the audience, the team, or the platform. They'll rewrite the story. They'll say that they chose to walk away, or they'll leap straight into another high-profile project just to prove they're still winning. It's not about learning or growing. It's about protecting the facade at all costs. The article continues and says, a source close to the project claimed Meghan put her heart into this show, but the ratings are not what she hoped for. That leaves her at a crossroads. People in the industry still see her as an actress first and foremost, not a lifestyle guru, and she's being urged to go back to her roots. I do wonder who it is that is urging her to go back to her roots. The article doesn't clarify that. So I want to throw a question out to all of you. Have you ever dealt with someone at work, in a friendship, or in your family who reinvented themselves but couldn't accept how others still saw them? Or maybe someone who couldn't admit when something didn't work out and just spun the story instead? If you feel comfortable sharing, please leave your experiences in the comments, and I'm actually going to talk about my personal experience with this. I've mentioned before that my stepmom is a malignant narcissist, and there are so many examples of that behavior, and the experience I'm going to tell you about reflects all of that. So about 20 years ago, and I can't believe that it's been 20 years, like time seriously flies. I was wrapping up my bachelor's degree and I got accepted to graduate school. It was wild because, to be honest, I hadn't put a lot of effort in the application process. I was so focused on my studies at the time. And I was truly shocked when I got into a PhD program at a pretty good university, too. So I excitedly told my dad, and I know he was so proud and excited for me. I don't know what it is about these men that have these malignant narcissist wives, but they go and share things with them expecting a completely different outcome than what has been done before. So my dad went and shared this with my stepmom in a moment of pride, right? He was hoping that she would say, "That's excellent. That's amazing. She did a great job." But instead, my stepmom flipped out on him. My dad called me and he was out of breath and he was asking me questions about who was going to pay for my graduate school and how all of the finances were really going to work. And I explained to him, Dad, you've never paid for any of my education. So why would that change now? I'm completely going to be financially responsible for this degree. I knew immediately, though, the way that conversation was going, that my stepmom was there. In a moment that I consider bravery, I told my dad that I was going to meet with the two of them and talk about this in an open forum. And I did that because I didn't want my dad having to continuously fight with her over this. So I went over to my dad's office and she was there, and she's just so cruel. She looked me up and down and she made a comment along the lines of, "Oh, that outfit is nice. It hides your figure well." Just, and it was always like that with her. Sometimes they were blatant abusive words, and sometimes they were comments like this. And then, of course, she had to cut down my achievement, saying things like, "Oh, it must have been really easy to get into that school. There must have not been a lot of competition this year." Just awful, awful things. And imagine, like, I'm in a moment that I want to celebrate, and this just brought such a dark cloud over a huge achievement. I didn't realize it then, but my stepmom had gone back to school, had been accepted into a university, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it was, but she had to drop out. So looking back on it now, this was something that she was very envious of. The reason I bring this up is that sometimes some things are just not meant for us. And people with malignant type of personalities, when they see someone else achieving those dreams, their behaviors just aren't good. I mean, that's such a simple way of putting it. Let's get back into the article. It says, "But going back to acting is going to be a humiliating journey. The truth is, she was a terrible actress, and no one in Hollywood is going to want to cast her in big projects as she is also seen as toxic." What's fascinating to me about all of this is that there's a lot of dissonance happening here. On one hand, her grandiosity tells her that she's a world class actress, that she's right up there with the Brad Pitts and Julia Roberts of the world. She sees herself as something bigger than an actress, though, now. So the idea of returning to that career feels humiliating to her, even though she still believes she's brilliant at it. These two beliefs just don't line up. The article continues. It says she is doomed to chase something that will not succeed like everything else in her life. The way this is phrased is quite dramatic, but from a narcissism lens, there are patterns that can quietly sabotage success. Things like grandiosity, overpromising and underplanning, or chasing the image instead of the substance. Add in a resistance to feedback and a tendency to shift blame when things don't go as planned, and it's easy to see why her projects fail or stall. The way it's phrased makes it sound like it's a curse for maybe past actions that she's done to other people, but that lack of success is coming directly from her character. The article continues and says she told Vanity Fair in 2022 she had no intention of resuming her acting career, declaring, "I'm done. I guess never say never, but my intention is to absolutely not go back to acting." This statement led me down two different paths. The first I see here is that there's almost this resentment of acting or going back to acting. It reminded me of a particular passage from Tom Bower's Revenge. Let's read it together. It talks about how early in the early days of her dating Harry, she would fly to Heathrow and it would say she would be the first to disembark. She was driven to a VIP facility for processing her passport and then sped in a chauffeured car to London. So here you see that Meghan is being treated above and beyond what she's ever experienced. And then it says, those privileges influenced her reaction to an encounter in the first class airport lounge on a return trip. An airline official asked her to move to another seat to make way for a group of male Colombian dignitaries. Without protest, she picked up her bag. In the future, she pledged no one would ask her to move. This says a lot about her character. First of all, there's no kindness, right? How difficult is it to move if there are no other seats available for a group of people to sit together? What about being kind to people? It's definitely missing from her. And you can also see the ego here, that once she was experiencing this VIP life, I think, with Harry, her ego went completely unchecked. I mean, I think she had a lot of grandiosity way before Harry, but really this caused her head to balloon seriously. I bring this up to connect it to something that was written in Harry's autobiography because I want to show Meghan's mind frame here. She thought she was above it all. What I'm going to do now is play excerpts from Harry's autobiography from Audible. So it's his voice saying it. I'm going to be playing it at 1.2 speed. So it's going to sound a little bit chipmunky. I know so many of you don't like his voice, and I apologize for putting you through this, but for me, I think it's important for telling the whole story. What we're going to hear Harry describing is him in a car with William and his father, and a conversation that happens between him and his father. Here it goes.
Pa, driving us out into the fields, asked about Meg, not with great interest, just casually. Still, he didn't always ask, so I was pleased.
Okay, let's pause here. First, his perspective is just so negative. Like, it's just so whiny. And he's describing a moment that Harry and Meghan weren't even engaged yet. They were just still dating. Let's continue.
She's good, thanks. Does she want to carry on working? Say again. Does she want to keep on acting? Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I expect she'll want to be with me, doing the job, which would rule out Suits, since they film in Toronto.
And Harry, that's your delusion. I don't think she had any intention of living the life that Harry thought they were going to live together. Let's continue.
See, well, darling boy, there's not enough money to go around. Was Pa, with all his millions from the hugely lucrative Duchy of Cornwall, trying to say that our captivity was starting to cost him a bit too much?
So you can see here, King Charles asks Harry if Meghan plans to continue working, that it would be a good idea because, finances are limited. Maybe a better way to say that is that finances are finite, right? There's a certain amount of money, and we've all heard that Meghan blew the budget. She spent, from what I understand, 10 times more money on her annual wardrobe than Catherine did. I think Catherine spent $100,000 and Meghan's was closer to $1 million. And you can also hear from Harry, he's describing his life as being in captivity. He's being paid because of his captivity. A totally skewed perspective. Let's continue.
Besides which, how much could it possibly cost to house and feed Meg? I wanted to say, she doesn't eat much, and I'll ask her to make her own clothes, if you like.
This is peak Delulu, Harry. You're going to ask her to make her own clothes. She can't even iron her own clothes. She can't even steam her own clothes. She really pulled the wool over his eyes. I think he had no idea what he was walking into. Let's continue.
It was suddenly clear to me that this wasn't about money. Pa might have dreaded the rising cost of maintaining us, but what he really couldn't stomach was someone new dominating the monarchy, grabbing the limelight, someone shiny and new coming in and overshadowing him and Camilla.
And that's where the clip ends. So it's not that Meghan spends too much money or that there's a limited amount of resources. It's not that. It's that Meghan should continue working because if she continues working, then the limelight will not have to be shared. I know the thumbnail for this video is Duchess Delulu, but he is Duke of Delulu. And it seems to me he was Duke of Delulu before she became Duchess Delulu. Because early in his relationship, he's here saying, oh, Meghan doesn't eat that much food and she can make her own clothes and we can save money like that. Just don't make her go back to acting. And this is the whole reason that I bring all this up, because what we're hearing from Meghan was her behavior, her mindset in 2016, 2017. So I believe she had absolutely no intention of being a working royal, and she had no intention of resuming her acting career even then. And I believe this Vanity Fair article, when she said this in 2022, it's something she had decided years before. Let's continue the article. It says, another insider claimed, oh, they wrote clammed. That's funny. Okay, it says, everyone knows money is a real factor here. Meghan has been determined to carve her own identity beyond the royals. But if the lifestyle projects stall, acting remains a good option. I think this is the part that's really relatable because many of us have had to go back to what pays the bills when a passion project doesn't work out. What makes it interesting is that Meghan's whole brand has been about breaking free of the royal box and reinventing herself. So going back to acting for the paycheck, I think she's admitting, or she could feel like she's admitting to the world that her reinvention hasn't stuck. And for someone with narcissistic traits, having to make a practical, money driven choice can feel like a public loss of status. And I think this is where the shame and humiliation creeps in. The article continues. It says, if she does return, Markle is said to be targeting prestige projects rather than minor roles. A Hollywood insider said Meghan isn't interested in walk on parts. She's aiming for prestige television, the kind of project that wins Emmys. Here we go again with the grandiosity. There's nothing wrong with having big goals, but there's something telling that she wants to skip the climb and land right at the top tier. It's classic grandiose thinking. If I come back, it's like she's saying to Hollywood, it has to be award worthy. And you know what? This is not something new that we've seen with Meghan. First of all, the fact that she has strategically, in my belief, worked for years to marry into the royal family has confirmed, likely to her, that she's deserving of these big goals and chasing after them. There's also this parallel of walk on parts not being good enough and wanting to land with Emmys immediately. This was exactly her attitude towards the royal family. She wanted to be at the top without putting in the work that got other people there. Going back to her potentially picking up this acting career, most actors who step away for years, they have to rebuild their resume, they have to reestablish relationships, and sometimes they have to start with smaller roles. But this idea of starting over, I believe, feels beneath her, and it explains why these comebacks keep stalling. The article continues and says, but if she's thinking she'll land roles with the likes of Jennifer Aniston, Julia Roberts, or Brad Pitt, she's dreaming. It will just spell more humiliation for her. She is no A-lister and never will be. I do wonder who is the source for this article. Whoever it is, they are no friend of Meghan. The article continues and says, according to the insider, acting could offer her a simpler way to generate income. The source explained, with acting, the paycheck comes no matter what. That's the attraction for Meghan. She delivers her role and still gets paid, even if the show underperforms. Studios know her name sells and they're lining up with offers. Well, I don't know how much of that last part is true. And what I take from this is that she doesn't really care if the project succeeds as long as she gets paid. That, I think, is exactly the reason why people have an aversion to With Love Meghan, because it's evident in her behavior, in her the work she does for With Love Megan, and I mean on screen and also in promoting it, that she really doesn't care if it succeeds as long as she's getting paid. That's very unattractive to viewers, in my opinion. This whole thing highlights a pattern we see with narcissistic personalities. They want the payoff and the recognition, but they're not necessarily invested in the grind or the outcome itself. The work isn't about the craft or the team effort, it's about what the role does for their image and security. And in my opinion, that mindset backfires because real success usually needs the person at the center to be deeply invested in the quality, the long game, the success, and not just the reward. The article closes out by saying the insider said that's why acting looks so appealing right now. It offers stability without dragging her back into the royal drama in the UK. I think this is what the audience senses in Meghan. She's doing it for money. She's not doing it because she's enjoying it. She's doing it as a way to avoid going back to the UK, and it's just not attractive. People watch lifestyle shows as a way to unwind and really enjoy themselves, and it's not enjoyable to watch that, in my opinion. I am curious to know what you all think about this. If you're on the job market, I'm sending big hugs to you. It's so, so, so difficult right now, and it's so discouraging. I have to say, the other day I had a mini breakdown. It really gets to your self-esteem, you know. You send out all these applications and you spend so much time on every single one, making sure that your resume, it perfectly communicates your experience, but then it's worded and phrased in the same way that the job description describes. It's exhausting. It's really exhausting, and I think that's why I haven't really been doing a lot of live streams lately, because these applications really have a way of wearing people down, honestly. But I do want to thank you all for listening, and your comments really mean the world to me, because just knowing that you're out there watching these videos and hearing that you enjoy them makes me feel like I'm getting something done in this time where I'm not where I'm seeking something professionally as well. So I just want to say I really, really am so grateful to all of you. If this was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether that's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. Their information is on the screen should you need to contact them, and you'll find the link to donate in the description of this video. Every little bit helps, and it means a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.